Mion and the others, having to set up for the Watanagashi festival or something, invited me along, but I refused. Of course I did. How could they be taking it easy and setting up for a festival in this situation? Mion had a lot of nerve. The first thing I did when I got back was take a shower. Not because I wanted to wash off sweat, it was because I wanted to be even calmer. I already understood this, but killing that man would be so very easy. The really hard thing would be not getting arrested for it, so we could get our peaceful days back. As I thought about it, I realized it wasn't easy. Japan's police force have the highest arrest rate in the world. I would need to deceitfully pull off the perfect crime, and it couldn't be a half-hearted attempt. Still, it wasn't 100%. Even the best police force in the world couldn't have a 100% arrest rate. I've read a lot of articles on trials with people brought up on false charges. At court, they consider whether the charges are false or not, but figuring out the real criminal is entirely out of scope. And that meant perfect crimes did exist. In fact, perfect crimes were sort of like works of art. They could even be respected and revered. You just had to look at the inundation of mystery novels everywhere throughout history. They dealt with all sorts of difficult to solve incidents involving secret rooms and alibis and stuff. But they all wanted to show one thing. They wanted to show the beauty of a perfect crime. Keiichi is literally sounding like Dexter. And I'm only mentioning this because it's like relatively fresh in my mind. But this is like some shit Dexter would say when he's like trying to plot out how to kill a guy, but also trying to pick up his son from like his daycare. This is like the stuff he would like mention or think about whenever he's driving like to work and thinking about the next guy he really needs to kill. There was something divine in the flawlessness of the word perfect. Yes, perfect crimes were skills of the gods. And in that sense, the serial freak deaths they were calling the curse of Oyashiro-sama. I understood. They must have been the works of gods. Each one appeared to have been resolved, but they couldn't stop it from happening every year. Yeah, skills belonging only to gods. Those are perfect crimes. And I would be setting up my own crime before Oyashiro-sama's series of perfect crimes 4 years in the running. If I were to put it boldly, I was challenging a god. Foolhardiness would be needed to make the decision, but I needed to be calm, cool, colder than ice to put that plan together. Kill him like a flame, but as systematic as ice. Starting now, I need to retain both of those ideas within me. Modeling my crime after a mystery novel wasn't actually a bad thing to focus on. Sometimes kidnappings involving disturbing, original methods that made it into the newspaper were used as a basis for novels after the person was arrested. Stuff like that made it into the news. Day and night, for a very long time, mystery novel authors polished and refined their most fantastic artistic crimes. Imitating that could be a shortcut to planning the perfect crime in a short period of time. Of course, I haven't read enough mystery novels to act all high and mighty about them. The one who really liked mystery novels was my mom. She'd read every well-known mystery novel from overseas, from past and present. Every time she watched mystery shows, she would always criticize them as having cheap tricks or being poorly thought out. I wonder what the perfect crime would mean to her.
これまでの推理小説の中で母さんが一番よくできたと思った完全犯罪？
Can you imagine? Keiichi somehow thinks about the perfect crime. He somehow manages to pull it off. And this results in a spin-off series where Keiichi becomes a serial murderer while being, you know, a normal member of his family. In a way, kind of like Dexter. And it's up to his mom to, you know, book him. She's the one that starts to realize some of the patterns in his killings, that like this results in an entire, like, you know, Higurashi spinoff. And it's just like the Keiichi files. And it's just him killing. And it's his mom chasing him like a fucking bloodhound. Anyway.
母さんって結構たくさん推理小説を読んでるでしょ。そういうの詳しいかなって思って。
それを読むから楽しいのよ。初めからトリックを教えちゃったら楽しみがなくなっちゃうわ。
It wasn't like I was asking for my own amusement. She was deflecting the question, so I would somehow butter her up first and draw out an answer. Mom, I want to be a cop.
そうね。よくできた推理小説。結構どれもこれもいろんな魅力があって、どれが面白かったとは言いにくいけど、強いてあげれば。
God, I unfortunately recognize some of these. But yeah, and then There Were None is pretty good. It's also a good song by a band called Exodus. So if you like thrash metal, that's pretty good. And Murder on the Orient Express. I remember having to read that for a university course. I don't remember which, but it was one where we had to study. For some reason, like, we were studying, like, mystery novels, and I really don't remember why. Like, the course wasn't even about that, I think. But I think the professor was like, all right, you guys got stuck with mystery novels this semester, because that's what I want to teach. And we had to read Murder on the Orient Express and, like, The Case of the Filch Falcon or some shit.
母さんの好きな小説のタイトルが知りたいんじゃないよ。母さんが一番舌を巻いた完全トリックが知りたいんだよ。
本当に完全なトリックだったら名探偵に解く余地がないじゃない。
That was true. Then there'd be no point.
推理小説は解ける謎をいかに解くかの過程を楽しむものよ。解けない謎だったらそれは推理小説の題材になりえないわね。
そっか。そりゃそうだよな。主人公に解けなかったらお話として成立しないもんな。
No fucking way. Is this just... Oh, this has to be. This is just the fucking author being tongue-in-cheek right now. The fucker is like explaining all this shit and then also talking about you, us. I, the player, you, the viewer. Yeah, you're right. If the main character can't solve it, it wouldn't be much of a story, huh? If you can't solve the crime as you're playing through Higurashi, I guess it wouldn't be much of a story, huh? Was I being too simplistic? A mystery novel was basically a game. A visual novel, maybe. They don't exist yet, but they were written so that you can get to the goal, so that you could solve them. But I couldn't use something so optimistic. It needed to be... Sorry, it needed to be the be-all end-all of tricks so that we could, without a doubt, return to our old lives.
ということはケイチ、真の完全犯罪は物語にすらならないというのがわかるかしら？
Oh? Mom looked at me intellectually and grinned impishly. I'd never gotten to read it, but apparently one time, a long time ago, Mom had written her own mystery novel and submitted it for some mystery novel award. Apparently, she was really into it.
物語にならないってどういう意味？
ケイチ、物語の最低構成要素は？
起承転結。
正解。特に肝心なのは当たり前だけど、木に当たる部分よ。スタートの木がなかったら、そもそも物語は始まらない。
そりゃそうだよ。何も起こらなかったら何も始まらない。
そう。何も起こらないから事件にもならない。探偵も呼ばれないから推理もない。推理がないなら解決もない。つまりこれが究極の完全犯罪。
ちょっと待って。もう一度説明してくれるかな。
My mom just told me something absurd. And she was saying it so smoothly too. So I kind of tuned her out, but she said something extremely important just Okay, she's like, I'm gonna kill this guy in 1500 seconds. Wait, what did you just say, Mom?
そんな難しい話じゃないわよ。そもそも事件が発覚しなければいいだけの話。
そもそも発覚しない事件。
There it was. The perfect crime. All I had to do was kill Satoko's uncle, without anyone ever finding out. The dark passenger within me was stirring, something that I couldn't control. I had to do this right. On the night of the Watanagashi, I, Maebara Keiichi, would strike, is what I assume his internal monologue would say.
つまり、例えばよ。誰も立ち入らない深い森の奥で、おじいさんが一人暮らしをしているとする。
うん。
そのおじいさんがある日、斧で殺されました。ちなみに犯人は、じゃあ、おじいさんの息子ね。おじいさんの家に来て一緒にお酒を飲んでいたんだけど、ちょっと喧嘩になって殺してしまった。
What an extremely cheap plot. It was an impulsive crime without a bit of planning. It was pretty far from a perfect crime.
でも圭一、そこはとてもとても深い森の中の一軒家なの。普段は絶対に誰も訪れない深い山奥の深い深い森の中。さて、殺した息子は町に帰ってきてこう言うの。おじいさんは元気だったって。
それのどこが完全犯罪なの？
圭一、この事件はね、おじいさんが殺されているのが見つかって初めて木を迎えるのよ。もしもこの後誰もおじいさんの家を訪れなかったら、永久に木は訪れない。
The beginning would never occur.
だからつまり物語は始まらない。事件が発覚しないから探偵も呼ばれない。そもそも誰も不審に思わないから謎も起こらない。おじいさんは今日も一人でのんびり森の奥で暮らしているんだろうね。で、お空におじいさんの顔が浮かんで、ジエンド。
His face would appear in the sky.
どう？こんな感じで。
Oh my god.
すごいじゃないか。それちゃんとしたトリックだよ。
でも娯楽小説にはならないわね。推理小説は所詮娯楽書。完全犯罪の指南書にはなり得ないんだから。
I was trying hard to talk cheerfully to fool her, but inside... Or... what? No, but okay, yeah, I guess so. But inside I was excited. Special tools, strange geography, mysterious drugs, traps involving huge sums of cash. None of them were needed for perfect crimes. The important thing was that there wasn't a beginning. As long as the incident didn't come to light, it would be fine. Speaking broadly, if I could kill him without anyone finding out, and dispose of the corpse somewhere no one could find, it would basically already be a perfect crime. Of course, if someone up and vanished one day all of a sudden, people would get suspicious. But that didn't apply to this man. Last year, after their aunt died, he ran away from the village in the fear of Oyashiro-sama. When the night of the Watanagashi came around again, everyone would have to think that he ran away in fear again. I mean, he had been living with a lover of his in town. No matter what it felt like when he vanished, no one would be suspicious. People hated him after all. No one would even care where he went if he disappeared. When I thought about it like that, it got easier and easier to imagine killing him. There was no point in thinking inside my house anymore. I left, getting my bike out of the garage. For now, it didn't matter where I was going. I just rode through the wind, trying to calm my excitement by feeling the cool air on my body. This sounds like a very bad idea. Because remember, Keiichi is an idiot. And not only that, he's also a new idiot in town. And not only that, he has no sense of direction. Meaning that he's probably going to get lost really easily. Where I'd kill him, how I'd do it, what time, and how to dispose of the corpse. If I just had those 4 things, I could get a good plan going. I was so surprised at how little there was to decide that I shivered. I'd been completely prepared to build this humongous plan over a really long period of time. But if I could just get these little things in order, I could put it into motion. Today was Saturday. I would have to kill him on the night of the Watanagashi, so as long as I was standing in for Yashiro-sama, I had only 24 hours remaining. Satoko, just hang on for 24 more hours. I can't even imagine having to suffer through even more, but please, hold out for a little longer. I know you can't even last another second. I know that. But please, just hold out. Your Nini will save you for sure. Outside, it was still early enough for the cicadas to be crying. Early afternoon. Evening was still a long way off. I looked at the sky. At some point, it had gotten cloudy. Come to think of it, as I left the house, I heard on the TV that the weather forecast was calling for a chance of rain on Sunday. The sky was the color of lead. If I heard a little bit of thunder, I definitely have expected a sudden evening shower. My first destination was school. Before explaining why I was going there, I needed to explain what method for killing that man I had decided upon. Is that a new song? I think so. I decided that the most suitable death, the one I needed to give him, was the same as last year's curse. A thorough beating? The same as the punishment their aunt had received, being beaten to death. I don't know about that one, Keiichi. I don't know about that one. You're a scrawny 15, 16-year-old kid. And this guy is a drunk uncle. I don't think beating him to death will be possible. I think you might need to reconsider this carefully. I think the killing him while he's taking a nap and then dragging his corpse out method might be better. Or something. Wouldn't beating him to death be somewhat unreliable? You may think that stabbing him with a blade would be more reliable. Yeah. But this was something I had chosen after a lot of thought. Obviously not, but... okay. You just needed to think about it realistically. the law, it prohibited carrying any blades longer than 10 centimeters, I think. So the blades available to me, even the longest ones, were still limited to things shorter than a ruler. You can probably understand how tricky it would be with such a short reach to go up against an opponent that might fight back. Okay. In that case, a weapon with reach, more like a staff, would be far more advantageous. It might not be quite as inherently lethal, but since you could just keep hitting the guy until you kill them, the end result was the same. So, what's a staff-like deadly weapon, terrifyingly powerful, and also eminently portable? The steel baseball bat! By this point, you should immediately think of a metal baseball bat. I don't need to explain how terrifying a metal bat can be as a weapon. Of course, of special note is the fact you can carry one around in broad daylight and not be thought of as suspicious. Just those 2 points would have been enough to choose a metal bat for my weapon. But there was one more reason for choosing a metal bat in particular. Because the metal bat belongs to Satoshi, and that is Satoko's Nini. I will speak about it later. After school that Saturday, my classmates were still having fun playing in the schoolyard. I could show up there and it would be the same as always, so nobody will think I'm suspicious. Getting my hands on the weapon without looking suspicious was actually a factor I couldn't ignore. I didn't normally play baseball, so if I went to a sports store looking for a metal bat, it would definitely be suspicious. I can't let there be a beginning to the story, so I needed to be really careful even about that. That left school. At a location at which my appearance wouldn't be suspicious, I would acquire the weapon. Yeah, it's symbolic that he gets Satoshi's bat of all things. I checked inside the classroom through the window, but of course, there was nobody there. The only students who would stay in there were me and the others when doing club activities. Without us, the classroom after school was just an empty, unused room. Without glancing around nervously as if I'd just gone to get something I'd forgotten, I casually went in the entrance. It looked like the teacher was busy with paperwork in the teacher's lounge. I didn't see her in the hallway. Naturally, yet quickly as a shadow, I entered the classroom. The empty room was full of strange, stagnant air that you couldn't feel normally. An empty classroom with nobody here. Maybe while no one was around, the desks creep about of their own accord, licking the floors clean of dirt. If I suddenly stepped into a place like that, would the desks, in their surprise, fly at me, crush my bones, and eat me alive? So this is either, again, Keiichi's youthful, wild imagination, right? Or bro is freaking losing it. It's one of those two.
Baka-bakashi.
I felt regret at wasting valuable thinking time on stupid delusions. The students' lockers were lined up in the back of the classroom. The one I was looking for wasn't my own. It was a forbidden locker. One I had accidentally discovered one day.
Atta. Hojo.
Hojo.
間違いない.
If one person has one locker, then why would only Satoko have two? I made a fuss about it once. After that, I learned it was Satoshi's locker, and he had the same last name as her. But of course, even though it was a locker for a student no longer here, looking inside it was still a shameless act. But one time, I let my curiosity get the better of me, and took a peek inside. Inside, it was average and worthless. At the time, I hadn't been interested, so until now, I'd forgotten what had been in it. But now that I had, dare I say it, awakened, I remembered the thing that had been in there. I opened the locker, and the stench of mold and sweat wafted out like a gym storehouse that hadn't been cleaned out in weeks. My face puckered up at the stench, but I looked for it. Yes. Satoshi was on Coach's baseball team. Inside the locker was a Hinamizawa fighter's uniform. And it. The one Satoshi used. The metal bat. Yes. This was the reason I wanted to choose this bat. The murder would be carried out by me, but this wasn't originally my role. It was Satoshi's. But I would stand in for him and call myself Satoko's Nini. It was one of the rules for standing in for him. I reached for the metal bat and grasped it firmly. It was light, and yet its tip had enough heft in it, enough to easily imagine the horror if I brought it down with all my might. Satoshi, I'll give you one last chance to save your sister. Lend me your strength. You're a coward, but I will stand in for you. So if you still care even a little bit about her, you will lend me your strength. There is no more suitable weapon in the world for putting that man to death than your bat. Now, I just needed to figure out where to hide it. Tomorrow, before the act, I would just stop by the school and grab it. Because I couldn't ignore the possibility someone would see me bringing it home and thinking it was strange. But if I left it here, there wouldn't be a problem. Plus, tomorrow was a Sunday. Not only that, it was the day of the biggest festival in the whole village. Nobody would be coming to school. I left out the entrance and went over to a construction vehicle parked nearby. We'd been warned by our teacher not to touch it, just for laughs, so none of the kids would come near the vehicle either. They wouldn't, because if she found out they touched it, they'd be in huge trouble. I quietly hid it in the shadow of the vehicle. The chances of someone operating the vehicle tomorrow were slim to none. Because tomorrow was Sunday. Government workers had the day off. And from what my classmates had said, the thing had been left here for years now. Machines that haven't been moved in years. You can't just suddenly start them up again. So I was almost definitely fine in this case. The sunlight was piercingly hot. My head grew faint for a moment. Had the heat been this harsh for the entire day? A moment of dulled thoughts like this was a moment of carelessness. I gave myself a couple of hits in the head, then looked around warily. Okay. Next, how to dispose of the corpse. We're already at the halfway mark? Or is this like one of those, this chapter has like 3 transitions? Disposing of the corpse. Actually, one sec. Settings real quick. I should crank up the music a tiny bit, just naturally. Maybe a little bit more. This should be good. I normally do all this stuff off stream, but the music has been a little low recently. Disposing of the corpse. The ultimate way not to create a beginning was to not let the corpse be found. It was even more important than killing him. Thinking on it vaguely, the first thing that came to mind was the swamp. I think this is the first time we've ever seen the swamp. Onigashchi. Yeah, exactly. The dreadful, bottomless swamp, revered even now, that appeared in the legends of Onigashchi village. Yes, the swamp called Onigashchi was here first, and then the village took its name to become Onigashchi village. In other words, this swamp was the origin of Onigashchi village. He's being so methodical, and he's being so symbolic right now. If he was writing, like, you know, an essay, his professor would be so proud. If this was like a mystery novel he was writing, like, his professor would be incredibly proud. Look at all the symbolism you're using, Keiji. I'm so proud of you. No one, no matter who it was, would float back up to the surface of this bottomless swamp. Everyone would be swallowed down into the land of the demons below the earth, or ogres, I mean. That was how the stories went. I don't believe Keiji has been told this. I don't recall, because again, if you're watching this later on YouTube, it's probably been a video for you. For me, it's been a week. Yeah, it's been a week. I don't remember if Takano-san told him about the swamp. I don't remember off the top of my head. I don't believe she did. So if she didn't, then Keiichi learned about this in some other point. I mean, he's been told this in chapter 1 and chapter 2, if I'm remembering correctly. But I don't know, maybe he's accessing the memories of Keiichi Prime and Keiichi Beta. I don't know. Or Keiichi Alpha and Keiichi Beta, and then he's like somehow like all these memories are converging. If I was trying to copy Oyashiro-sama's curse, then I felt that theory demanded I discarded the remains and the weapon into the swamp. Yeah. I know, I remember she mentioned how the village got its name. I remember that much, but I don't remember if she mentioned specifically that, hey, Keiichi, by the way, we have a swamp, and people, when people disappear during the Watanagashi, they get thrown into the swamp. But either way, but they may have said it's bottomless, but I didn't actually know. And people say large creatures like humans produce a lot of gas when they rot, granting a lot of buoyancy. It was why using fairly heavy objects to hold people down didn't work. Come to think of it, with the curse, the year before last, Erika's mother drowned herself in this swamp. And the criminal behind the dismemberment that went missing the year of the first curse too, it was rumored he tried to discard the body in the swamp and accidentally drowned in it. Okay, so either he was told more about this by Takano, or she actually mentioned all this and I'm not remembering correctly. I'd never heard of the corpse coming back up or them finding it. Then, shouldn't I choose to discard the corpse here too? I could discard the weapon there. And then, for example, if her uncle came out on the motorcycle and attacked, it would be convenient to get rid of the bike too. I knew that Satoko's uncle generally used a motorcycle for transportation. But as for the corpse... After a lot of worrying, I decided not to discard the corpse in the swamp. Really? But see, this is like the author fucking with you as well. Because I'm sure every single person who's ever played this game thought of that exact same scenario. They thought, specifically, to dump the body in the swamp. Because, hey, as we've been told, any body, literally, any body, not anybody, but any body that gets dumped into the swamp does not come up. But as we've learned in Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, the reason why the bodies don't come up is because whoever dumps the body in the swamp does it in such a way, in such a carefully and methodically thought out manner, that when a body is dumped into this swamp, they are forced to sink for 3 days and 3 nights, I think it was. It was either 3 or 2. I think it was 3. And that's why the body is never found. And usually, we'd assume that this would be why, or what Keiichi would assume, or like would try to do, right? And like, because it makes sense. But this is like subverting reader expectations, obviously. The drowning, suicide, and accident were both rumors. Nobody knew if they'd actually happened. There were no lack of false rumors about the drowning suicide anyway, and it was possible the murderer hadn't drowned there and was still on the run. That meant no one had ever confirmed a corpse being drowned in there and not coming back up. Then what would I do with the body? I thought it might be interesting to go with the first incident, cutting him to pieces and hide him. But the preparation and work for dismembering dismembering a human body would be difficult given the amount of time I had. With that out of the question, I arrived at the conclusion to go with the more orthodox method of burying the body. Then where would I bury it? Was a question related to where I would kill him. Of course, I wanted to keep my time and proximity to the body at a minimum. With that in mind, I would want to dig the hole to dump the body in beforehand, and to make the location of the act and the hole close together. The choice of where to plan the crime, that I needed to be absolutely careful and thorough with. I had to be somewhere nobody would witness it, and a place with hiding places for a sneak attack. So, like, I'm thinking about this as well with Keiichi, right? And what I'm thinking about is, okay, Keiichi wants to kill this guy and hide the body. But instead of being, I guess, rational about it to some extent, he's being dramatic and symbolic and self-righteous and other synonyms along those lines, right? He wants this murder to have meaning. He's probably going to yell at him, and he's probably going to tell him, I'm doing all this because of everything you've done to Satoko, right? And instead of thinking about it logically to some extent, because it's like, he's got to move, like, he's like, all right, where am I going to dispose the body? Okay, I'm going to dig a hole. Okay, where am I going to dig the hole? It'll be somewhere where nobody will see it, and it's got to be close to where I murder him. Okay, how am I going to murder him? I'm going to beat him to death. How are you going to beat him to death? You have to do all this guy's like asleep or drunk or not seeing it, unless you're just going to break into his house and beat the shit out of him. And then how are you going to drag his corpse? Even if it is the Watanagashi, the biggest festival in town, there's still going to be people out there, for one. The other thing to consider, the other thing to possibly consider, which might not be a thing, but considering the type of game that this is, it could be a thing. Now, don't think less of me for what I'm about to say. But just remember that this is a Ryukishi game. So anything is possible. From time travel to aliens to fucking out-of-body experiences. What if Satoko was lying the whole time about the abuse? And she was just looking very, very, very depressed on purpose. We were told throughout the chapter that Satoko was very good at lying and faking bruises. So what if she faked this tantrum that she threw when Keiichi tried to pet her, and she just freaked the fuck out? What if? Also, Billy, thanks so much for the resub. I really appreciate it. But what if Satoko was faking all this? And what if she wanted maybe to manipulate Keiichi into doing this? And if not Keiichi, what if she wanted to give herself like an alibi? People saw her being, you know, mistreated. So why not? Why not punish the uncle? Why not have someone else do it? These are just things that I'm thinking about out loud for now. So let's see again where this goes. So again, it had to be somewhere nobody would witness it, and a place with hiding places for a sneak attack. I could dig a hole for the body right there. I go over the possibilities in my head of the various destinations of her destinations her uncle would head to from Satoko's house. I imagined a map of the area in my head, and then I found a place that fulfilled those conditions so easily it was almost unbelievable. So right now, Keiichi's like having out-of-body experiences, right? He's like floating above Hinamizawa. He's examining the entire area. And he's like, all right, there's Satoko's house. Where can I? There. Perfect. Yeah. Yeah, Keiichi is so gleeked up right now, bro. A bit of a back road that went through the woods. I didn't think her uncle would go deeper into the mountains of Yagochi on a whim. If he was going somewhere, he'd pass through these woods first. And nobody used this back way unless they had something to do at Satoko's house or one or two other places. This path was fantastically ideal, as few people used it. I would wait for him in these woods. 1 second. Would an ambush actually be possible? I went into the trees and tried really hiding myself in a few places. It was extremely quiet. My senses could be sharpened here to their maximum amount. I don't know when he'd come, but I'd wait right here for Satoko's uncle. I actually had some trouble coming to that decision. The question arose of whether I should somehow call the man out. Was there a risk I'd be taking by luring him here? That man made Satoko do all the shopping and errands. He seldom left on his own business. He wouldn't leave unless I worked out a plan to force him to, would he? That was the question. Tomorrow was the Watanagashi festival. We're repeating this a lot, by the way. And this is all intentional. This is all just writing. Would he go out for the festival, or would he stay inside? If he stayed inside, how would I drag him out of his house? That's right. Wouldn't he make Satoko go to the festival? Satoko would go to the festival. Meanwhile, I would call the man. This is the Okinomiya police station. We have the young lady from your house. Would you come and pick her up immediately? It didn't even have to be the police. This is the clinic. The young lady from your house has been injured. Or, this is the clinic. The young lady from your house has been injured. Please come pick her up. Yes, that would work too. If I claimed to be the police or the hospital, told him to come and then hung up on him, he'd rush there trying to figure out what was going on, wouldn't he? And just the other day, he was visited by a probation officer. He wouldn't just suddenly grumble about having to get his niece and not go. It would look like child neglect. I mean, not only that, Keiji. You just said it out loud. He was visited by a probation officer. He is being watched. Not only that, the other thing to remember, which I forgot about until just now, is that there will be cops everywhere. Everywhere. If you recall, in Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, this year, the 5th year, I believe, was it 5th or 4th? This year, during the Watanagashi was the year that they had the most amount of cops everywhere in Hinamizawa. The man had no useful skills around the house. Satoko, his slave, was an essential part of his daily life. Conclusion: if he went out to the festival, I would attack him here on his way there or back. If he didn't, I would lure him out by phone. If luring him out by phone was my first step, I needed to be sure Satoko would go to the festival, leaving the house. It would be convenient if I could make Mion take Satoko to the festival. She said her aunt was a district welfare officer. In other words, an ally to the probation officer. If I somehow incited Mion to take Satoko to the festival with her, well, being who she was, she'd use that fact and get her there. But the final thing you need to consider, Keiichi, say you happen to do this. Say you happen to murder this guy. Say you happen to dispose of his body perfectly. Say everything goes according to plan. What are you gonna do when the following morning, on Monday, you get to school, or you're walking to school calmly with your friends, laughing, and Mion turns to you, looks you square in the eyes, and says, "Where were you on the night of the Watanagashi?" What are you going to tell Mion when that happens? At least these are the thoughts currently running through my head. I know Keiichi is probably going to think of it as an alibi, right? But we'll find out. Satoko should just take a break and have fun at the festival with everyone. She would have a good time, reminisce on our former peaceful days, and when she went home, everything would be over. Yeah, that would be the best outcome. With that decided, I needed to dig a hole somewhere in the woods to hide the body, so it wouldn't stand out, so it wouldn't be found. Someplace nobody would see me while I was completely exposed as I buried the corpse. I had wanted it to be close to the scene of the crime, but it naturally grew further and further away. Deep in the bosom of the Black Forest. I don't think we've seen this background either. The voices of the Higurashi were the only sounds here, in informing me that people shouldn't indiscreetly set foot in this place.
穴を掘るか。
Digging a hole with so many tree roots crawling around the ground would be far more difficult than I'd envisioned. I snuck a gardening spade out here in my bag, but that wouldn't be enough. Yeah, no, you would need like a fucking shovel, dude. Still, as I looked into various approaches, I managed to find a place I could dig into. Tomorrow, I'd bring a real shovel from the storeroom at home. I'd manage with that. I wondered how big a hole would have to be to fit a human all the way into it. I'd probably have to dig pretty deep down. But if I was slipshod in these efforts, I'd let a beginning occur. I absolutely couldn't allow that. I used any amount of time you needed to. Or use any amount of time you needed to. I mustn't spare any effort to utterly erase him. I glanced at my wristwatch. It was a little past 6. This is probably all I was going to get done here for today. I really wanted to dig the hole in advance tonight, even if it got dark out. but Mom would be upset if I stayed out that late. It wouldn't be good to come off as suspicious to my parents. I needed to go back home and give Mion a call. I needed to get her to promise Satoko to take her by tonight. After that, today would be done. Done. Would it be, though? Was this really everything I could do to prepare right now? I decided where to kill him. I decided how to kill him. I decided, of course, how to dispose of the body. I didn't decide on the time, but I would play that by ear. I didn't have a way to decide that. Was that really all? Was this really all right? Have I overlooked anything? Would this really go how I planned? After all this, worries started welling up one after another. What's wrong, Mayabata Keiji? Remember, you have to be cold as ice. You have to be calmer than calm. You have to be ruthless. And now you're getting cold feet? It was only natural I'd be anxious. This would be the first and last big job of my lifetime. I could not allow failure, and I had no experience as this was my first time. I didn't have the know-how, the knack. So it was only natural I'd be anxious. The dark clouds of unease told me doing nothing would be the easiest way. A truly pathetic suggestion this late in the game. Have you forgotten how miserable Satoko looked? From the outside, it may have looked like I was resolute, but deep in my heart, my knees were shaking loudly. Now, this is a little hard to believe, because Keiichi, instead of wearing his emotions on his sleeve or his heart on his sleeve, he wears his heart on his face. And it's been established multiple times that whatever Keiichi is thinking of can easily be read by other characters. So unless he's like transmogrified into someone completely fucking different, I really doubt Keiichi is unable to hide his nervousness. Because again, remember, Keiichi is an unreliable narrator. That is one thing you have to remember. Most of the stuff he tells us is okay, but certain details, like this one, you have to take with a grain of salt. I've never actually won a single fight to my satisfaction. Could I really kill someone? I may have been planning an ambush, but my enemy was large and far older than me. It's like he's finally thinking about it. He had a scary face, and he looked like he was well accustomed to fighting. Could I have all the pieces before and after the murder perfectly planned? But was the actual murder the most important part, what unsettled me the most? All my preparations, all my perfectly concealed machinations. If I didn't successfully murder him, they amounted to nothing. Damn it. After coming this far, you're pathetic, Keiji. If you start to have these kinds of second thoughts, your ulterior motive will be obvious. Let's go home. Go home and calm your mind. Tomorrow will be a juncture in your life, the likes of which graduation, employment, marriage, and childbirth couldn't hold a candle to. A day of murder. To kill someone for someone else's sake. With that day behind us, we would take it back again. Those mild, spring-like days we never thought would stop. Those safe, peaceful, fun times. I pedaled my bicycle hard to get back home. I felt somehow unsteady, like my body and soul weren't in alignment. A subtle shift between where the tips of my hands and feet really were and where I felt them to be. My vision was a little distant and narrow, as if the great barrier I risked my future life on had nothing to do with me. An unreal sensation. Everything was so far away. Fine. Feel your unease permeate you, Keiji. If that will turn your timidity into meticulousness and allow you to act with greater caution, then it's actually an important emotion to feel. This feeling I had never went away that night. I thought it was gonna just cut the chapter end. It was the first time I'd be calling Mion's house. I searched for her phone book at the school. I searched for her in the phone book the school gave me, then dialed a short phone number, the kind unique to remote places. It was around dinner time. She would probably be home. But just as I started to think nobody would respond, somebody finally picked up the receiver.
Hi, 園崎です。
Shion?
あ、夜分遅くにすみません。ミオンか。
どちら様です？
俺だよ、ケイジだ。
ああ、ケイちゃんか。
Her voice changed. That was Shion, wasn't it? That had to be Shion. Now I'm hallucinating. Now I'm turning into Keiji. Now I'm having like second thoughts about shit like this. Her voice sounded a little different though.
何こんな時間に。
She seemed to be in a weirdly good mood, and she drew her syllables out. Oh, she's drunk. Right. It's the night before tomorrow's festival. So she's probably with her family having some drinks.
悪いな、こんな時間に。今、時間は大丈夫か？
うん。何？
聡子のことなんだけど。
I heard her draw in a small breath on the other end.
さとこ、大変なことになっちゃったね。
Diane.
大丈夫かな？
Indeed. The scent of sake had completely disappeared from her voice.
大丈夫なわけないだろ。
She immediately sobered up.
お前も見ただろ。あれ。あんな擦り切れるまでにいじめ抜かれて、俺たちはあんなになるまでずっと見捨ててきた。
見捨ててたわけじゃないよ。みんな助けようとして必死に考えてたよ。
でも結局何も思いつかなかったし、聡子を救えたわけじゃないだろ。結局あんなになるまで俺たちは何もできなかった。
そうだね。私は結局見てただけかも。
だからさ、せめて一夜くらい遊ばせてやろうじゃないか。
遊ばせるって？
あいつもいろいろと参ってるのわかるだろう。だからさ、明日の綿流しのお祭りにあいつを連れて行ってやってほしいんだ。
それは構わないけど。どうして？
どうしてって、せめて祭りの夜くらい息抜きさせてやりたいじゃないか。 たとえ一夜でもあの意地悪なおじの元から離れられるなら、短い時間でもきっと聡子は喜ぶ。
だからどうして？
どうしてって何がだよ。
I was having a little difficulty understanding what Mion was asking me. It's because you're speaking to Shion.
どうして？ケイちゃんが連れて行ってあげないの？
Yeah, Keiichi. Why don't you bring her? I'm kidding. The answer is obviously because of what happened in the classroom today, Shion. Or Mion, I should say.
私に頼まなきゃならないの？
Mion was persistent about odd things. No, maybe it'd be better to say that she was sharp.
俺、実はちょっと明日は用事があってさ。
Keiichi, you had an easy out. It happened today of all things. What do you mean, why don't I bring her? Do you remember the last time I tried getting near her? Do you remember what happened, Mion? Do you remember how she freaked the fuck out? How she had a mental breakdown in front of everyone? Do you not remember this, Mion?
祭りには行けない。だから聡子、ミオンが連れて行ってやってほしい。
用事って？
大した用事じゃないんだ。多分すぐに片付くと思うけど、ひょっとすると明日は合流できないかもしれない。なあ、ミオン、明日の夜だけ聡子を頼めないか。
Mion took a long time to give her reply. I got the feeling that Mion had been acting weird for a while now. Like she was flustered by emotions or something.
いや。
Huh? Was that a sob? Mion? Are you crying?
私、嫌だって言ったじゃない。私なんかに押し付けられても困るって。
別に押し付けるつもりなんかないよ。明日の夜だけでいいんだ。
嘘だったじゃない。
What? Mion, what was she talking about?
綿流しの夜だけって言って結局ずっとだった。嘘つき。でもおあいこかな。私全然あなたとの約束守ってないから。あの子はずっとほったらかしだしね。
No idea what to say to that. Mion was clearly now talking to someone other than me. I didn't know who. Okay, hold on. Then this is very important. Especially with the song playing. I don't want you to push this onto me. Onto someone like me. That's a lie. Saying it's just for the night of the Watanagashi, and then it was forever. But I guess we're even, huh? I couldn't keep the promise I made to you. I left her alone all this time. This might be in reference... Again, assuming all of this is like connected, or all these timelines go into one, or all these games are related in some way, shape, or form. This could be related to Mion and how she had to abandon Shion. Again, I'm making wild guesses here. Because she's drunk right now. So maybe she thinks she's talking to someone else, right? Or maybe she's just very emotional and she's going through the motions. So sorry. to piece my thoughts together real quick. She's probably talking about her experience with having to abandon Shion, right? Young, as a, you know, as she's the older twin, right? And how she was probably told by someone else, probably another family member, like, hey, Shion has to go away for now. She's gonna have to go to, like, you know, her aunt's house in the fucking, you know, town that's down the road. It's only for tonight. And then it became forever, right? That's probably what they're getting to with this. Like saying, like, she probably had to leave on the night of the Watanagashi, right? But then it was forever. Oh, where's Shion? I haven't seen Shion in a while. Oh, she had to go. But I guess we're even now, and I couldn't keep the promise I made with you. I left her all alone. Or sorry, I left her alone all this time. I assume that's what that's specifically talking about. I could also be misinterpreting this, but hey, we'll see. All I could do was listen to her in a daze.
あれからずっと帰ってこないのに、あの子のことをもう一度押し付けるためだけに、本当にずるい人。ねえ、あなた、サトシ君なんでしょう。
Ah.
ミオ、さっきから何の話だ？
When I said her name, whatever spell was on Mion was released.
あ、ごめん。なんでもないの。
So it was Shion. We were talking to Shion. Because the family gathered, right? And we know Shion will be at the Watanagashi. Shion was probably helping set up for the Watanagashi. We know she's in town. This happened last chapter. Because it was last chapter during the setup phase of the Watanagashi that we learned about, you know, the storeroom and all this stuff with Takano and Tomitake. And Shion was there. Shion was telling us stuff. Well, actually, no, sorry, we didn't learn about the storeroom, but we learned more about Onigafuchi and the like. And also Shion was there. And now I'm pretty sure we were talking to Shion, and she's like, oh shit, that's right, this guy probably thinks he's talking to Mion.
ちょっと、ケイちゃんの今の電話にそっくりな電話を昔受けたことがあって。
A long time ago, huh? You mean last year?
それ、ひょっとしてサトシか？
Mion didn't answer. All I could hear were sobs coming through the receiver.
ごめんね。ちょっと私寝ぼけてるみたい。変なとこで感情的になっちゃった。ごめんね。焦ったでしょ。
So, I guess this would be a huge hint. Wouldn't it? She says a long time ago. But it was probably last year, around this time, where Satoshi asked Mion, assuming it's Mion, let's say, he called Mion and said, hey, could you look after Satoko for me tonight? And Mion was like, sure, I could take her to the festival. Mion takes Satoko to the festival, and then Satoshi beats the living shit out of his aunt and kills her. Thrashes the place, who knows, but kills her and then runs away. Or quote-unquote disappears. And then Satoko's uncle, after realizing that, his wife had been killed, he probably thought it might have been, I don't know, a rival gang or something, because I believe it's been implied that he's involved with the Yakuza. He leaves town. No idea how it happened. It probably happened the way I just described it. But I was pretty sure that last year, on this very day, he's about to explain what I just explained. Satoshi had called Mion and told her to bring Satoko to the festival. And when she asked why he needed her to do it, he replied the same way I just did.
サトシ、祭りに行かなかったんだな。
うん。用事があるから自分は行けないって言って。代わりに私にサトコを祭りに連れて行ってくれって。
その時、サトシも言ったんだな。サトコを頼むって。
うん。言ったよ。明日の夜だけ頼むってね。ケイちゃんの言い方があまりにもよく似てたんで。ちょっと思い出して取り乱しちゃった。
I didn't expect this. Satoshi had given her the exact same phone call 1 year ago today. After that, Mion said once more. Or after that, Mion had said more. That he was lying. That he told her it would only be for the night of the festival.
そうだったな。サトシはその数日後に消えた。
Disappeared might have been a rather vague way of putting it. Whether he ran away or not, Satoshi left, abandoning Satoko.
そう。天候でもなく、家出でもなく、消えたの。
And then, an idea, far more indistinct than even fog, crossed my mind. Satoshi made exactly the same phone call as me last year. Why would Satoshi make the exact same call? If, in the truest sense, he really made the exact same phone call as I am right now, then the incident where their aunt was beaten to death, that's... could it...
サトシだ。
Satoshi.
え？何が？
Last year, Satoko had been constantly abused by her uncle's wife, their aunt too. Her aunt abused her the most. And on that night, in the name of Oyashiro-sama's curse, she was taken from this world. If I thought about that, everything made perfect sense, didn't it?
去年、サトコのおばが殴り殺されたじゃないか。あれ、サトシってことは考えられないか。
No. But that would mean... But then... Satoshi... He was a coward who abandoned Satoko and ran away, wasn't he? How could Satoshi... resolve himself to kill a person to save Satoko? It was unthinkable.
私も実はそれを疑ったことがある。
And I guess this is your reminder that Keiichi is a fucking idiot. There's no way anyone could be motivated to kill someone else. Or kill for someone else, especially to protect them. There is no way someone like a brother would be pushed to the point of killing to protect his little sister who's being abused by the only other person in their household. There is 0% chance of this ever happening.
サトシには悪いけど。
A few days later, he disappeared. on Satoko's birthday. When I first heard it, I flew into a rage. What a cruel day to have run away on. But now that I thought about it like this, the story changed completely. Satoshi had probably been even less calm than I was right now. He was her big brother, related by blood, watching his little sister be abused day in and day out. Maybe that's why he couldn't keep calm. And that was why the corpse of their aunt, beaten to death, was so easily discovered. Satoshi lost himself in his anger and hadn't hidden the corpse. He'd permitted a beginning to occur. If the police conducted a full-blown investigation, it was easy to imagine they wouldn't take long to pin down Satoshi as the culprit. Satoshi, he wished for a return to peaceful days with Satoko, and thought he'd achieved it for a time. He had been steadily driven into a corner. And then, he wanted to at least hold out until Satoko's birthday, but finally, they nailed him. At the time, Satoshi had been carrying the savings he'd amassed to buy Satoko a giant stuffed animal for a birthday present. He would buy the stuffed animal as her gift, and then get caught. Or, he could use the money and disappear. That was the choice he had been forced to make. And he decided not to make Satoko the sister of a murderer. If that was the case, then it must have been an unspeakably bitter decision. All that money he'd saved wanting to see Satoko happy, he had to use it to make her sad. And he used the savings and disappeared to Tokyo, if the rumors were true.
サトシはそれで消えたのか。
それはわからない。大石なんかはそう思ってるみたいだけどね。
You're really starting to sound like a cop now, Keiichi. The fuck's your problem? Oishi. Had he been slowly driven into a corner by that repulsive man's pig-headed pursuit?
確かに状況証拠は揃ってるけど、多分ケイちゃんの推理は外れだと思う。県内のどっかで捕まったろくでなしが犯行を自供したっていうし。
That was right. The deviant had confessed, and the incident was solved.
そいつは本当にただの異常者で、ひなみ沢とは何の縁もない男だったって。もちろんサトシとも何の関係もない。だからそんな奴がサトシの身代わりになって嘘をついてくれたなんて到底思えないし。
You couldn't just arbitrarily decide like that. You'd never know where or how humans are tied together. If that guy took the blame, then it was the perfect crime. Of course, if it was really a perfect crime, there would have been no reason for Satoshi to vanish.
それに、サトシには逃亡資金なんてなかったと思う。サトシが預金を下ろした日、これは誰に言っても信じてくれないんだけど、サトコのために買うと言ってたぬいぐるみが、売れてショーケースからなくなってたの。きっと、サトシが買ったに違いない。
ちょっと待てよ。逃走資金に使わないでぬいぐるみを買うために使ったならサトコのところへ帰るはずだろ。ぬいぐるみを買ってそれを届けもせずに蒸発するなんて考えられない。
うん。だからわからなくなっちゃうんだよ。まとまったお金があるならともかく、貯金を全部使っちゃったならサトシは無一文。お金もなく逃亡生活ができるほど世の中は甘くないよ。
Didn't get it. After all that, I was understanding Satoshi less and less. The two of us fell silent. I couldn't remember how we even got on this topic.
ごめん。どこで話が脱線しちゃったんだか。サトコの件ね、 安心していいよ。実はもうちゃんと誘ってあるんだよ。
え、本当かよ。
祭りの準備でみんなで神社に行った時さ、聡子を祭りに呼ぼうって話になったんだよ。それで集会所の電話でそのまま電話して誘ったんだ。おじのやつよそよそしくて勝手にしろみたいな感じだったけど、とりあえず OK はしてくれた。明日みんなで待ち合わせしていくことになってるんだよ。安心した？サトシ。
バカ、俺はサトシじゃないって。
I was a little relieved. I hadn't needed to make the phone call. Satoko had already been invited to the festival. And not in a way that smelled of blood, a way to leave her uncle alone to create time for me to kill him. They purely wanted Satoko to enjoy herself, so they invited her. In the end, it was the same, but I was happy for that slight difference.
すまないな。俺が電話をするまでもなかった。昨日にしろ今日にしろ変な話ばかりしてすまないな。忘れてくれ。
こっちこそ本当に申し訳ない。柄にもなく取り乱しちゃって本当にごめん。
We apologized to each other for a little bit.
じゃあ俺はこれで失礼するな。おやすみ。
何の用事？
As if interrupting our parting words, Mion struck straight where it hurt.
それもまたサトシと同じように言えない？
バカ。だから俺はサトシじゃないって言ってるだろ。
うん。そんなのは分かってるよ。
I deflected her, with a response that wasn't really an answer. Mion didn't hound me anymore after that.
じゃあ今度こそおやすみな。
どうしてケイちゃんがサトシ君と全く同じ電話をしてきたのかわからないけれど。なんでもない。ごめんね。おやすみ。
切るぞ。
Satoshi Hojo. Just who are you? I scorned you as a coward who ran away, abandoning his sister. I always thought you didn't have the right to call yourself her Nini. But now I didn't know what to think. Oyashiro-sama's curse on the 4th year, their aunt's death, and Satoshi's disappearance. And now, me trying to carry out Oyashiro-sama's curse on the 5th. Yeah, it is the 5th year, okay. Oddly enough, what I was going to do overlapped perfectly with Satoshi the day before the curse. No, that wasn't all. If we start back from Satoko being abused, then I'd be overlapping with Satoshi for days already. When I talked to Mion before, she asked me if I was Satoshi. If that was the first impression a third party like Mion got, then it was probably true. Then as Satoshi had accomplished, I would succeed in the murder. But that was the extent to which we overlapped. I was far calmer than Satoshi, and more calculating. I could actually grow calmer the more enthusiastic I became. That's why I wouldn't follow in Satoshi's footsteps. I would snip him cleanly out from the world and then get our peaceful life back. Maybe Satoshi has been with me ever since I chose to use Satoshi's bat as my weapon. No. Maybe even longer than that. When I decided I'd be her Nini, maybe Satoshi had been residing within me then too. Satoshi, were you really a coward? Or are you a true Nini even now? The kind worthy of Satoko's love? I'd never met him, never spoken to him, didn't even know his face, and yet I felt so connected to him. I'd never felt that way before. The new tip acquired. I do feel kind of dumb, like theorizing a little bit. I mean, like, oh man, this is probably like Mion talking about Shion, and then her just being like, Satoshi gave me the same call like a few years ago, and then here, like here I am, like completely off the fucking wall. All right, let's view the new tip, and then we'll get ready to end it for tonight. For the attention of those on the housewife slaughter incident case. This sounds like a title to like just any ancient essay, like what's his name? Taylor? No, not Taylor. Sorry, Jonathan Swift. What's it called? Like he wrote like if you've read any book or any like essay from like the 18th or 16th or 15th century, or anywhere from the 15th to 18th century, they all have really fucking long names, but they're usually known by a shorter name. So like this would probably be called like the housewife slaughter incident, right? If we look at like at Jonathan Swift, right? He has an essay. It's a satirical essay, and it's called A Modest Proposal. But the full name is A Modest Proposal for Preventing the Children of Poor People from Being a Burden to Their Parents or Country, and for making them beneficial to the public. Which is a super fucking long name. Or what was the other one? There's another book that I really like. It's called The Anatomy of Melancholy, and this is a book from the 1600s. But the full name, or the full title, is The Anatomy of Melancholy: What It Is, with all the kinds, causes, symptoms, prognostics, and several cures of it, in 3 main partitions with their several sections, members, and subsections, philosophically, medicinally, historically, opened and cut up. Like that is a long ass fucking title, and like I'm not joking. Like that's what it is. Here, I'll put it up on screen real quick. This is from the first edition. This is the full title of that book. It is so long, but that's why now it's just known as The Anatomy of Melancholy, for example. Anyway, let's quickly read the note, or the tip, I mean. July so-and-so 1982. Kinomiya Police Station, 1st Investigative Division. Chief Takasugi. So-and-so Prefecture Police Headquarters for the eradication of drug-related crime. Shishibune Branch Head, so-and-so. Regarding incident so, designated as undercover investigation. This message is to inform you that a section of the testimony records of an incident incident under this police headquarters jurisdiction has been found. That is thought to be related to the undercover investigation of the incident in question, Okinomiya Police Station so-and-so, Hinamizawa Village, housewife slaughter incident. During the investigation of suspect so-and-so who was arrested for possession of illegal drugs, there was testimony alluding to the crime in question, and it became clear that it contained information that only the perpetrator could have known. Therefore, we are prepared to share this record of testimony with you. Duplicate attached. If this testimonial is to be believed, then there is an extremely high chance that suspect so-and-so was the perpetrator in the incident in question. In addition, on receiving this testimony, the head investigator on this case inquired as to the incident with the Okinomiya Police Station. But the responsible party at Okinomiya Police Station misunderstood, and in compliance with the designation as an undercover investigation by executive order from the Prefectural Police Headquarters on July 1st, 1982, General Administration B1-12. They did not explain the incident's existence to the head investigator as they should have. Because of this, the head investigator did not realize the importance of the testimony as it is related to the case in question, and as a result, was negligent with combining the scene. We apologize for having effectively ignored it until now. In addition, there is a postscript stating that the suspect, so-and-so, died while in confinement yesterday, on so and so date. Meaning, oh, that sounded like chills through my spine. Like I'm getting like goosebumps. So it could be that Satoshi drugged someone, had them possibly take the blame, and then they killed themselves in jail while they were in the holding cell in the meantime. Perhaps. But I guess we'll find out as the story develops and as the game goes on.